They called him the man who could not be broken. But before George Washington was a president, before his face ended up on money, before statues rose in his honor, he was something else entirely. An untested general with a ragtag army of farmers, fishermen, and blacksmiths, facing down the greatest military force on the planet. And yet, somehow, he didn't just survive. He led America to victory. How? The real secrets of George Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War might surprise you. And they prove that America was built on more than muskets and declarations. It was built on the willpower of one man who refused to quit. Let's rewind to 1775. The Revolution had just erupted after the battles of Lexington and Concord. British troops were the best trained, best equipped, most experienced soldiers in the world. America, not so much. Washington was chosen to lead the Continental Army, but he wasn't handed a polished force. He inherited chaos. Untrained men, hardly any weapons, food shortages, and no navy to speak of. To make it worse, Washington himself had never commanded a full-scale army before. Sure, he had fought in the French and Indian War, but this was different. This was survival. The first secret of Washington's leadership. He understood perception. He knew that even if his army wasn't strong, it had to look strong. Appearances could scare off the British long enough for his men to gain confidence. At the Siege of Boston, Washington arrived to find militias scattered and undisciplined. He imposed strict order, drills, formations, and codes of conduct. Some men hated it, but Washington believed that without discipline, they weren't an army at all. And here's the genius. He didn't just train soldiers, he built an image. Washington always wore his full uniform, carried himself tall, and rode a magnificent horse. He knew the sight of him gave soldiers hope. Secret 1. Leadership isn't just about commanding, it's about embodying strength when others feel weak. But discipline alone wasn't enough. Washington faced another brutal challenge: lack of supplies. Guns, powder, food, everything was short. At times, soldiers trained with wooden sticks instead of rifles. Many didn't even have shoes, leaving bloody footprints in the snow. So, how did Washington keep them fighting? His second secret: he mastered patience. Instead of rushing into hopeless battles, he chose when and where to strike. He avoided full-on confrontations with the British until the timing was perfect. This frustrated some colonists who wanted fast, glorious victories. But Washington knew losing early battles could destroy the Revolution before it began. The best example: the Battle of Long Island in 1776. Washington was outnumbered and outmaneuvered by British General Howe. The situation looked hopeless, thousands of Americans trapped against the water. But Washington pulled off a miracle retreat. Under cover of night and heavy fog, he evacuated his entire army across the East River without the British noticing. Not a single man lost. It wasn't a victory, but it saved the Revolution. Secret 2. Sometimes retreating is the bravest form of leadership, because survival today means a chance to fight tomorrow. But Washington's most famous secret was his ability to inspire belief when all hope seemed lost. By late 1776, the Revolution was crumbling. Soldiers were deserting, enlistments were about to expire, and morale was at rock bottom. Many thought the dream of independence was finished. Then Washington did the unthinkable. On Christmas night, in freezing snow, he led his men across the icy Delaware River to surprise the Hessians at Trenton. His men marched with torn clothes, frostbitten feet, and empty stomachs. But they followed because Washington himself was at the front. He wasn't in a warm tent. He was on the river in the cold, enduring everything they endured. The attack worked. America won a stunning victory that electrified the colonies. Secret 3. True leaders don't just give orders, they share the suffering, and in doing so, they create unshakable loyalty. But Washington's challenges weren't just on the battlefield. Behind the scenes, Congress was constantly questioning him. Some politicians doubted his abilities. Others wanted to replace him with more aggressive generals. Washington's fourth secret: humility mixed with persistence. Instead of playing political games, he kept his focus on the mission. He wrote letter after letter, explaining his decisions, begging for supplies, pushing for support. He never quit, even when his own leaders doubted him. And in the end, his persistence won, because Congress realized no one else could hold the army together like Washington. Then came Valley Forge, winter of 1777-78. It was brutal. Soldiers starved. Disease spread. Men froze in huts made of mud and logs. More than 2,000 would die that winter. Any other army would have collapsed, but Washington's presence kept them alive. He walked among the men, spoke with them, shared their pain. And here another secret emerged. He knew when to seek help. Washington welcomed Baron von Steuben, a Prussian officer, to drill and train the army. By spring, the ragged Continental Army had transformed into a professional force capable of standing toe-to-toe with the British. Secret 5. A great leader isn't afraid to admit he needs others. He turns allies into strengths. And yet, Washington's leadership was also about vision. He understood that the revolution wasn't just about winning battles. It was about surviving long enough to prove America could stand on its own. He avoided catastrophic defeats, built alliances, and kept hope alive until France entered the war. That alliance changed everything. With French ships and troops on their side, America finally had the muscle to challenge Britain head-on. Fast forward to Yorktown, 1781. Washington coordinated with French General Rochambeau and Admiral de Grasse to trap Cornwallis. It was a masterstroke of planning and patience. Cannons roared, trenches advanced, and the British found themselves cornered. On October 19, Cornwallis surrendered. Against all odds, the revolution was won. And who stood at the heart of it all? George Washington. But here's the final, greatest secret of his leadership. He gave up power. After victory, many expected Washington to seize control, maybe even declare himself king. That's what generals usually did in revolutions. But Washington shocked the world. He resigned his command and went home to Mount Vernon. He showed that true leadership isn't about clinging to power. It's about knowing when to let go, to serve the people instead of ruling them. Years later, when America begged him to become its first president, he agreed, reluctantly. But even then, he refused to hold power forever. After 2 terms, he stepped down, setting the tradition for peaceful transfer of power. And that might just be his most enduring lesson. So what are the real secrets of George Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War? Discipline, patience, shared suffering, humility, allies, vision, and the wisdom to let go of power. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, lost battles, and struggled with doubts. But through it all, he showed America what leadership truly means. Not glory for oneself, but sacrifice for something greater. That's why George Washington isn't just the father of our country. He's the blueprint for leadership that still inspires the world today.